Chapter 1. The Mystery of JFK. Let's get real. Okay, so, everyone knows JFK, right? President John F. Kennedy, super young, super handsome, everyone loved him. It was like a real-life fairy tale. Except, fairy tales don't usually end with a bullet to the head. And that's what we're talking about today. You guys, the JFK assassination. November 22nd, 1963, Dallas, Texas. JFK is riding in his motorcade, waving to the crowds, and bam, shot in the head. Just like that. Gone. The official story is that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, that he fired 3 shots from that Texas school book depository, and that was it. But come on. Things are never that simple, are they? Especially when it comes to, the government and stuff. So, buckle up, my conspiracy theory-loving viewers, because we are diving deep into the rabbit hole of JFK assassination theories. We're talking grassy knolls, we're talking CIA cover-ups, we're talking Mafia hits, and maybe even some alien stuff, who knows? Let's go. Chapter 2. Was someone hiding in the bushes? Alright, so, to understand the whole grassy knoll thing, we gotta talk about the Zapruder film. This is the holy grail of JFK assassination footage. This guy, Abraham Zapruder, just happened to be filming the motorcade as it drove by, and he caught the whole thing on camera. And when you watch it, it's super disturbing. You see JFK get hit, and then, here's the thing, his head, snaps back and to the left. That's weird, right? If the shots came from behind him, shouldn't his head have gone forward? That's where the grassy knoll comes in. See, the theory is that there was another shooter, someone hidden on that grassy knoll, and they got a clear shot at JFK's head. And then there's the whole magic bullet theory, which is a whole other can of worms. Basically, some people think there's no way one bullet could have hit both JFK and Governor Connolly, who was also in the car. They say it would have had to, zigzag through the air or something. It's all very confusing and suspicious. And it's not just the film, you guys. There were also a ton of witnesses who said they saw smoke or heard another shot coming from the grassy knoll area. I mean, these were people who were actually there, And then there are all these weird stories about people being silenced or disappearing after the assassination. What happened to the guy who was filming right next to Zapruder? His film mysteriously vanished. And there was this woman, Jean Hill, the lady in red, who swore she saw something fishy on the grassy knoll. She ended up dead under mysterious circumstances too. It's all just super shady, Why would the government be so quick to shut down any talk of a conspiracy if there was nothing to hide? It makes you wonder, right? Chapter 3. The CIA Masters of Manipulation? Okay, so let's talk about the CIA. We all know they're super secretive and powerful, right? They're the puppet masters behind the scenes, pulling all the strings. And some people think they were the ones pulling the strings in JFK's assassination too. The theory is that JFK was getting a little too big for his britches, He was challenging the status quo, going against the wishes of the military-industrial complex, and the CIA was nope, not having it. JFK wanted to pull out of Vietnam. He was trying to make peace with Cuba. He even fired CIA Director Allen Dulles, which is a huge deal. Dulles was basically the king of the CIA, and JFK just kicked him to the curb. Not a smart move if you're planning on living a long life. And the CIA, let me tell you, they have a history of doing some pretty messed up stuff. I mean, have you guys heard of Operation Northwoods? It's insane. They literally planned to stage terrorist attacks on American soil and blame it on Cuba to justify invading. Luckily, JFK shut that down, but it shows you how far they were willing to go. So, is it really so far-fetched to think that they might have been involved in JFK's assassination? I mean, they had the motive, they had the means, and they definitely had the opportunity. And let's not forget about all those shady CIA agents who just happened to be in Dallas that day. Coincidence? I think not. It's the more you dig into this stuff, the more questions you have. And the government isn't exactly being forthcoming with answers, are they? It's almost like they want us to believe in conspiracy theories. Chapter 4. Mafia Retaliation. Okay, so the Mafia, right? We've all seen the movies, Goodfellas, Casino, The Godfather, the classics. They're brutal, they're powerful, and they don't forgive easily. So it's not that crazy to think they might have had a bone to pick with JFK. Kennedy's brother, Robert, the attorney general at the time, was like this huge thorn in their side. He was all over the Mafia, shutting down their operations, throwing them in jail. Imagine the most annoying neighbor you've ever had, but instead of complaining about your music, They're taking down your entire criminal empire. The theory goes that the Mafia felt like JFK wasn't doing enough to stop his brother, so they decided to take matters into their own hands. It's like, hey, Mr. President, you want to rein in your brother? No? All right, problem solved. Dark stuff. And let's not forget, the Mafia was super powerful back then. They had their fingers in everything, even politics. So, did they have the means and the motive to take out a president? It's definitely something to think about, right? Let's unpack this a bit more. Some people believe the Mafia worked with other groups to assassinate JFK. I mean, it was a big job, right? It would take serious planning and resources. Maybe they had help from disgruntled CIA agents or even Cuban exiles who hated Kennedy's guts after the Bay of Pigs fiasco. And then there's the whole thing with Marilyn Monroe. It's just a rumor, but some people believe she was involved with both JFK and his brother Bobby. And we all know how she died, right? Super mysterious. Was the Mafia trying to send a message? Again, just a thought. It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle, you guys. All these little pieces of information, these rumors, these connections, they might mean nothing, or they might be the key to the whole thing. It's enough to make you wonder, right? So the Mafia theory is definitely one of the juiciest, most intriguing ones out there. It's got the drama, it's got the motive, and it's got that whole stranger-than-fiction vibe that makes you question everything. Chapter 5, Cuban Government Involvement. Okay, so picture this. You're Fidel Castro, the leader of Cuba, just chillin', trying to lead a communist revolution, when suddenly the United States, this giant superpower, decides they don't like you very much. They try to invade your country, they try to assassinate you like multiple times. It's enough to make anyone paranoid, right? So when JFK gets assassinated, people start pointing fingers at Castro. And honestly, can you blame them? The guy had every reason to want Kennedy gone. The Bay of Pigs invasion, the constant assassination attempts, the whole Cuban Missile Crisis thing. It was like these two were in a constant power struggle. Plus, Castro was buddies with the Soviet Union, and they were not fans of America. So, did Castro have Kennedy killed as payback for all the drama? Did he have help from the Soviets? Or was he just a convenient scapegoat for a much larger conspiracy? I mean, let's be real, blaming a foreign leader is like the oldest trick in the book. But what if, just what if there's more to the story? The thing is, there's no concrete evidence linking Castro directly to the assassination. It's all speculation, rumors, whispers, and dark corners. But that's what makes it so fascinating, right? The lack of answers, the mystery, it's like catnip for conspiracy theorists like us. Some people think Castro might have used Mafia hitmen to do his dirty work. Like he hired the muscle and they took care of the rest. And remember those disgruntled CIA agents we talked about earlier? Maybe they were in on it too. It's like a game of Clue, but with much higher stakes. Then there's the whole Castro knew about the assassination beforehand theory. Some people believe he was tipped off by someone, maybe even someone within the US government. I know, right? Mind-blowing. But why would anyone warn him? Was it to prevent a larger conflict? Or were they playing some kind of twisted game? The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this whole thing so damn intriguing. Chapter 6, Disputes over Israel's Nuclear Program. Okay, so let's talk about Israel's nuclear program. Now, Israel has always been a little cagey about its nuclear capabilities, right? It's like the don't ask, don't tell policy of the Middle East. But back in the 60s, they were working on developing nuclear weapons. And not everyone was thrilled about it. JFK in particular was worried. He didn't want Israel to become a nuclear power. He was trying to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons, and he was putting a lot of pressure on Israel to abandon their program. He even threatened to cut off aid to Israel if they didn't comply. Can you imagine the tension? Now, imagine you're Israel. You're a new country surrounded by enemies, and you feel like you need nuclear weapons to survive. And then, this guy, this powerful world leader, comes along and tells you to stop. You'd be pretty pissed, right? So, did this tension lead to JFK's assassination? Did someone in Israel, or maybe even within the US government who supported Israel's nuclear program, decide to silence Kennedy for good? This theory gets even crazier when you consider the alleged involvement of intelligence agencies. Some people believe that Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, might have been involved. Mossad is like the CIA on steroids. They're known for their ruthless efficiency and their willingness to do whatever it takes to protect Israel's interests. Was Mossad involved in JFK's assassination? Did they act alone, or did they have help from within the US government? Were there secret backroom deals and betrayals at the highest levels of power? It's like a spy thriller come to life. And then there's the connection to Lee Harvey Oswald. Some people believe that Oswald was a patsy, that he was set up to take the fall for a much larger conspiracy. Was he manipulated by Mossad? Was he a double agent? Was he in over his head? The truth is, we may never know the full story. But the fact that these questions even exist, that there are so many unanswered questions surrounding JFK's assassination, just goes to show how deep this rabbit hole goes. Okay, so this is where things get really juicy, you guys. Like next-level conspiracy stuff. We're talking about Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency. Some people believe they were involved in JFK's assassination. And honestly, it's not that far-fetched. Mossad is known for being like super secretive and effective. They're like the ninjas of the intelligence world. And apparently, Kennedy and Israel, specifically their prime minister at the time, David Ben-Gurion, weren't exactly best friends. They'd been butting heads over Israel's nuclear program. See, Kennedy was worried about Israel having nukes, thought it would cause a whole big mess in the Middle East. He was putting pressure on them to stop, and some people think that pissed off Mossad. Like, really pissed them off. So, what would Mossad have to gain from taking out Kennedy? Well, some theorists believe that getting him out of the picture would have removed a major obstacle to Israel's nuclear ambitions. No more pesky Kennedy trying to slow down their program, right? Plus, there were whispers that Kennedy was considering cutting off aid to Israel. Can you imagine? You know, like, if your friend is being shady and you're like, okay, I'm cutting you off. That's basically what Kennedy was thinking about doing. And let's be real, Mossad isn't exactly known for their, like, gentle approach to problem solving. They're not afraid to get their hands dirty. You know what I mean? So, did they take matters into their own hands to protect their interests? It's definitely something to think about. I mean, we're talking about a group of highly trained spies here. They could totally pull off something like this. And the fact that there are still so many unanswered questions about the assassination just adds fuel to the fire. So, we've talked about how some people think specific groups might have wanted Kennedy gone, but let's look at the bigger picture, you know, like zoom out for a sec. Kennedy's whole approach to the Middle East was like a powder keg waiting to explode. He was trying to walk this tightrope between supporting Israel, which was super important to the US, and also maintaining good relationships with Arab countries. And let me tell you, that is not an easy thing to do. It's like trying to juggle chainsaws while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. He was trying to be friends with everyone. But in that part of the world, it's really hard to be friends with everyone without making some enemies along the way. And trust me, when you make enemies in the Middle East, they are not messing around. Plus, the Cold War was in full swing, which just made everything 10 times more complicated. It was like high school drama, but with nuclear weapons. Kennedy was trying to keep the Soviet Union out of the Middle East, which was like trying to keep moths away from a flame. And then you've got the whole issue of oil. The Middle East was, and still is, like the oil capital of the world. And everyone wants a piece of that. So you've got all these different countries, all these different groups, all vying for power and influence. It was a recipe for disaster. And some people believe that Kennedy, with his new vision for the region, got caught in the crossfire. Like he was trying to change the game, and the people who benefited from the old game were not having it. My brain is like officially fried. We've gone down so many rabbit holes, explored so many theories, from the grassy knoll to the CIA, the Mafia, Cuba, Israel, and even freaking Mossad. It's a lot to process, you guys. But here's the thing, we still don't know for sure what happened that day in Dallas. The official story that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone? I don't know, guys, it just doesn't feel right, does it? There are too many loose ends, too many unanswered questions. What do you guys think? Let me know your theories down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more mind-blowing conspiracy deep dives. Until next time, stay spooky.